Part 2. The Rebirth of Space, the Lucky Girl from a Farm Family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 11. Chapter 11 Family. Seeing Gu Huayu sitting calmly, Mrs. Yang came over and asked, Huayu is 10 years old this year, right? Isn't your grandma going to give you another brother? Yang Xiaofang, at least Xiao calls you uncle, you have to act like an elder. Look at you. What are you asking? Mrs. Fang held the basket of beans in her hand and said to Yang with a straight face. Yang sat up and said, Hey, yo, I was just joking. Look, why are you so anxious? Yang laughed playfully and said yo several times, her face full of amusement. Fang said seriously, you can tell such a joke to a teenage girl. Gu Huayu didn't expect that Fang would stand up for her. Looking at Fang with an angry face, her heart felt warm again. Yang didn't expect that Fang wouldn't give her face, and said angrily, Second sister-in-law, what do you mean? I said it was a joke. Who in Shanghai village doesn't know that I love to tell jokes? Why are you so serious? I don't know. I thought Huayu was your biological daughter. We all live in the same village. I don't know whose family is good, so who are you pretending to? Seeing the two of them arguing, Mrs. Wu hurriedly tried to smooth things over and said, Oh, what are you doing? It's just a joke, don't take it seriously. Is it a big deal to hurt your friendship just because of a joke? Just as Fang was about to reply, Gu Huayu spoke before her, Aunt Wu is right, what the aunt said was just a joke. Everyone in Shanghai village knows that the aunt likes to joke. Anyhow, the eldest uncle always talks like this in front of Chengmin, Chenjiao, and the others. The second uncle doesn't need to be angry about this. Don't be upset, eldest uncle. My second uncle is upright and defensive. If our family members want to be beaten or scolded, they can only be beaten or scolded by our elders. We cannot let others make irresponsible remarks. Gu Huayu first comforted Mrs. Fang, and then turned to attack Ms. Yang. Wang Mingsheng was sitting in front driving the car. After listening to Gu Huayu's words, he turned to look at the three women who were stunned. He smiled and said, Xiao is right, don't be angry. However, Mr. Yang, you should change your habit of joking regardless of the occasion. Yang didn't hear Gu Huayu mocking her at first, but after Wang Mingsheng said it, she realized that she was wrong, and that Fang was not a good person, so she didn't dare to confront Fang. I had no choice but to blush and stop talking. The atmosphere in the car became dull and awkward. Fortunately, when the car reached Guancan, people got on the car one after another. Wu's natal family is in Guancan, so she started chatting with acquaintances on the car. After someone got on the bus, Gu Huayu sat next to Fang and stretched out her hand to help support the basket. Gu Huayu glanced at Yang and Wu who were chatting animatedly, tilted her head towards Fang, and whispered, Second aunt, thank you for today. Fang turned her head to look at Gu Huayu and whispered, What can I say thank you for? We are a family. Gu Huayu smiled and rested her head on Fang's shoulder, Yes, we are a family. Fang's mouth corners slightly raised, letting Gu Huayu lean against her. When she arrived in town, it was already 10 o'clock. Gu Huayu jumped out of the car and bumped in the car for more than half an hour. Her legs were a little numb. Fang Shi put the basket on his back, turned to Gu Huayu and said, Xiao, follow me. Gu Huayu nodded in agreement, Yes, come on. Gu Huayu followed Fang to the market. At this time, there were gradually more and more people in the market. Gu Huayu looked around and stopped in front of a medicine shop. Second aunt, there is space here, let's put it here. Fang looked around and nodded in agreement. Fang put down the backpack, wiped the sweat with a handkerchief, lowered his head, opened the bag, and exposed the beans in the bag. End of this chapter. The Rebirth of Space, the Lucky Girl from a Farm Family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 12. Chapter 12 Making Money. Gu Huayu took out the maza from the basket and said, "Second aunt, please sit down and have a rest." Ms. Fang stood on the side, panting heavily, wiping sweat with a handkerchief and saying, "It's okay. You sit down, I'll stand for a while." Gu Huayu asked Fang to sit down. "Second aunt, sit down. I want to go for a walk and come back later." Fang looked at the crowded street and said worriedly, "There are many people on the street, Xiao, please wait. When the beans are sold out, I will take you shopping." Gu Huayu wanted to walk around alone and see what she could get out of the space in exchange for some money. So she smiled apologetically and said to please, "I'll just walk around nearby." "Don't worry, second auntie, there are only 2 streets in the town, I won't get lost." Ms. Fang looked around worriedly, "You kid, don't be ridiculous. It's your first time to go out. If something happens, how do you ask me to explain to Xiaofeng when I go back? You wait here until I sell the beans. I'll take you shopping again." Seeing that Ms. Fang was not letting go, Gu Huayu stepped back and said with a playful smile, "Second uncle, if I don't go far, I will just hang around." Seeing that Gu Huayu was about to run away, Ms. Fang warned loudly, "Xiao, you girl, don't mess around." Gu Huayu smiled playfully and raised her hands and said, "Don't worry, second auntie, I'll be back in a minute." Fang looked at Gu Huayu who was squeezing into the crowd, and said helplessly, "You, are a scumbag, you don't worry at all. If I had known, I wouldn't have let you follow. Sister-in-law, don't worry. You can't lose such a big baby. My kid will disappear when he goes to the street. If the kid likes to watch the excitement, just let her be." The woman selling corn next to her comforted her. Fang sat back and started chatting with him. Sanhe town is formed by the intersection of east-west and north-south streets. With the intersection of the cross streets as the center, it gradually radiates outwards, forming a town where thousands of people live together. Every market day, people from all over the surrounding areas gather here, which is quite lively. Gu Huayu wandered along the north-south streets, looking at the shops on both sides, thinking about what to buy from the space to sell. After browsing the 2 streets, Gu Huayu had no idea what to sell. He sighed secretly, Sanhe town is too small and its spending power is extremely limited. The things in her space are too delicate and too eye-catching. Gu Huayu thought for a long time, finally took out a century-old ginseng root from the space, turned around and went back to find Fang. When Gu Huayu returned, Fang was weighing her feet and looking around. When she saw her coming back, she breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Gu Huayu said with a playful smile, "Second aunt, I'm back." He stretched out his hand to avoid hitting the smiling man, and swallowed back the reproachful words when they reached his lips. He nodded and said, "Just come back. If you are tired, sit down and take a rest." Gu Huayu saw that Fang's face was not kind. She lowered her head and saw that the basket on her back was empty. She immediately let out a rainbow fart and complimented, "Are the beans sold out? Ernie is so awesome." She sold out all the beans with such skill, no wonder Anyang said that Ernie is doing business. A good hand. Ms. Fang's expression softened and she said, "You have to go early to go to the market. If you come by car, you won't be tired, and you can still sell the beans at a good price." This time, each caddy of beans sold for 2 cents more than last time. Ms. Fang was a little proud. He lowered his body and whispered the last words to Gu Huayu. Gu Huayu raised her head and looked at Fang, and saw Fang raising her eyebrows at her brows and eyes filled with joy. Gu Huayu's eyes were full of admiration. She gave Fang a thumbs up and said, "Second aunt is amazing." Fang received Gu Huayu's praise, and the smile on his face became even brighter. He bent down and put the little tuna into his backpack, and said, "Let's go to the drugstore to get some medicine for your grandma." Gu Huayu leaned forward, took Fang's hand, and said softly, Second aunt, wait a minute. Fang turned her head and looked at Gu Huayu, wondering, what's wrong? Do you still want to go shopping? Ernie will accompany you. Gu Huayu shook her head, leaned her head in front of Fang, and whispered, Second aunt, years ago, I picked a ginseng root at Eagle Cliff. Fang Shi looked at Gu Huayu in disbelief, and then asked after a long while, really? Gu Huayu nodded seriously, yeah, really. I want to sell this ginseng to get some money. What does Ernie think? As he spoke, Gu Huayu took out the ginseng from his sleeve pocket. Fang hurriedly stuffed the ginseng into Huayu's sleeves, looked left and right, and said in a very low voice, Xiao Yu, don't show off your wealth, do you understand? Seeing Fang's cautious look, Gu Huayu nodded quickly and said, I understand, I understand. Thank you, Ernie, for the pointer. Fang took Gu Huayu's hand and walked to the side, to a place with fewer people. He lowered his voice and said, let's go to Jiantang. Anyway, we have to go there to get medicine for your grandma. The shopkeeper of Jiantang, Dr. Hu, is good friends with the third brother. Over the years, shopkeeper Hu has helped our family a lot. Let's see if he accepts it. If he refuses to accept it, we ask him to help us control our eyes. He will not lie to us. When Ms. Fang said this, she turned her head to look at Gu Huayu and asked, do third brother and Xiao Feng know about such a big matter? Gu Huayu stuck out her tongue and shook her head, I don't know yet. I wasn't sure at first. I came here today just to confirm. Just now, I found a pharmacy to make sure. Gu Huayu looked at Fang's expression as she spoke. The voice became lower and lower. Fang Shi understood. Seeing that Gu Huayu was so frightened that she was almost silent, she said with relief, okay, let's go to Jiantang to see the shopkeeper Hu. Gu Huayu breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that she had been fooled, and followed Fang to Jiantang. When the two of them arrived at Jian Hall, the waiter recognized Fang at a glance and greeted her with a smile, Auntie is here, please come in. Fang smiled and thanked him, and asked, is Dr. Hu here? After saying that, he put the basket outside the door of Jian Hall. The waiter smiled and replied, go back to Auntie, the shopkeeper is here. After saying that, the waiter raised his voice and said, Dr. Hu, Aunt Fang from Shanghai village is here. Shopkeeper Hu heard the sound and walked out from behind the counter. He bowed his hands to Mr. Fang and said, the second brother and sister are here. Please come in. Is this Xiao from the Dichang family? Shopkeeper Hu and Gu Dichang are close friends, but they are 2 years older than Gu Difang. Fang returned the favor and said, it's my third brother's Xiao. Xiao, come here to see Dr. Hu. Gu Huayu stepped forward to greet him and said, hello, Dr. Hu. Shopkeeper Hu said with a smile, I haven't seen Xiao in a few years. He has grown taller and I almost didn't recognize him. Don't call me Dr. Hu. You should call me Uncle Hu. Your father and I are very close friends. Gu Huayu called out in a kind-hearted voice, hello, Uncle Hu. Shopkeeper Hu smiled heartily and said, that's right, come on, you two, Ching'an, make tea and some snacks. The waiter who called Ching'an responded repeatedly. After a while, Ching'an came over with freshly brewed tea, then a plate of mung bean cake and a plate of melon seeds. Shopkeeper Hu pushed the melon seeds and mung bean cake in front of Gu Huayu and said softly, second brother and sister, Xiao, you can try it. My wife made it myself. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Rebirth of Space, the lucky girl from a farm family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 13. Chapter 13 Selling Ginseng. Fang Mrs bowed to express her thanks, held up the mung bean cake and handed it to Gu Huayu, gesturing for her to eat it. Gu Huayu reached for a piece of mung bean cake and bit it slowly. Fang put back the saucer, picked up the teacup in front of her and took a sip of tea. Shopkeeper Hu asked, "The second younger brother and sister are here to get medicine for the third younger brother and sister." Fang smiled and nodded, "Well, this is one of them. This time, I have one more thing to trouble Shopkeeper Hu." "Oh, what's the matter?" "It's okay, my second brother and sister, but I can't bear the word trouble." Shopkeeper Hu put down the teacup and looked at Mrs. Fang and said. Fang she was not polite and said bluntly, "That's right, Xiao found a ginseng root in the mountains a few days ago and would like to ask Shopkeeper Hu to take a look at it." Shopkeeper Hu's eyes lit up, he straightened up and said, "Oh. Really? Where are the things? Have you brought them?" Fang nodded, "Yeah, I brought it." After saying that, Fang motioned to Gu Huayu to take out the ginseng. Gu Huayu hurriedly stuffed the mung bean cake in her hand into her mouth, patted the momo on her hand, took out the ginseng from her sleeve pocket, and held it out with both hands. Gu Huayu saw Shopkeeper Hu's overjoyed expression and knew that he knew the goods. Fang asked, "Shopkeeper Hu, please take a look at this ginseng. Is it okay?" Shopkeeper Hu stared at the ginseng and nodded repeatedly, "Okay, that's good ginseng." When Mrs. Fang heard this, she felt happy, and then asked, "Then I want to ask, if it is sold, how much silver can this ginseng be sold for?" Shopkeeper Hu blurted out, "If such a good ginseng is sold, it will not be less than this amount." As he spoke, Shopkeeper Hu raised a finger. Fang asked tentatively, 10 taels of silver. Shopkeeper Hu shook his head, "Not just. That's 100 taels." Fang stood up in shock, her voice trembling. His eyes looked at the ginseng in Shopkeeper Hu's hand, which was not much bigger than his thumb, with roots and whiskers. Shopkeeper Hu shook his head again, "Not only that, this ginseng should be more than 100 years old. Such a good ginseng is worth at least 1,000 taels." Fang swayed in shock. Gu Huayu hurriedly stretched out her hand to help her and warned, "Second uncle, be careful." Gu Huayu helped Fang sit down and quickly calculated in her mind how much 1,000 taels of silver would be converted into RMB. Shopkeeper Hu looked at Fang and Gu Huayu and asked, "Are you really planning to sell it?" Gu Huayu nodded and said, "Yeah." Shopkeeper Hu asked with twinkling eyes, "Can I sell it to my uncle?" "Of course, I got this ginseng by chance. I'm grateful to Uncle Hu for giving Xiao his eyes. In this way, I sold this ginseng to Uncle Hu for 800 taels of silver." Gu Huayu replied cheerfully. "I can't do it, I can't do it. You can think of me for such a good ginseng. I'm already very grateful. How can I take advantage of you again?" Shopkeeper Hu said hurriedly. Gu Huayu said with a smile, "Uncle Hu, don't worry, let Xiao finish what he said first. Uncle and Dad are close friends, and what he tells us is all the truth. This ginseng can only be sold at this price if it is taken to the uncle's shop. If you go to another shop, it will be a big deal if others can offer you 300 taels of silver. Furthermore, in the future, we will go up the mountain to collect medicinal materials and sell them to Uncle Hu. From now on, we will have to rely on Uncle Hu for a lot of time." Fang was heartbroken because Gu Huayu lost 200 taels of silver. After hearing what Gu Huayu said, she felt that she was very reasonable. But this. Gu Huayu didn't wait for Shopkeeper Hu to finish speaking, then interrupted him, "Uncle Hu, don't be embarrassed, let's make an agreement. This ginseng was originally obtained by chance, and it was already a stroke of luck for our family. Besides, this ginseng can be of greater use in Uncle Hu's hands. It would be a waste of natural resources if it were left in my house." End of this chapter. The Rebirth of Space, the lucky girl from a farm family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 14. Chapter 14 Ways to Make Money. After Mrs. Fang thought about it, she echoed, "That's right, Shopkeeper who just listens to Xiao Yu. From now on, we will trouble you a lot. Shopkeeper who raised his hand and touched his head, and said with a smile, is this good? Then I will accept it. Fang Shi smiled and said, take it, take it. Then you sit down first, and I'll get the silver. Shopkeeper who stood up and went to the inner room with the ginseng. After a while, shopkeeper who came over with the money bag said, this is 750 taels of silver notes, 30 taels of silver, and 20 taels of broken silver. Shopkeeper who pushed the bank notes, ingots of silver, and broken silver over one by one. Gu Huayu didn't move and looked at Fang. Mrs. Fang smiled and said, you girl, what do you think I am doing? Take the money quickly. Shopkeeper who said uneasily, second brother and sister, Xiao has a child. Isn't it inappropriate to leave such money with her? Fang said with a smile, Ginseng is a sweet girl, and she should keep the money by herself. It's okay. I'll be with her, and nothing will happen. Shopkeeper who smiled and said, that's good, but I thought too much. Xiao, please keep the money. Gu Huayu looked at Mr. Fang's eyes a little deeper, no longer delayed, nodded and said, okay. She reached out and put the banknote into her purse. By the way, Uncle Hu, please help me prescribe some more medicines for my mother. Shopkeeper who nodded and said yes, got up and went to prescribe the medicine. Next time, let your mother-in-law come to town to check my pulse. Gu Huayu nodded and said, okay, thank you, uncle. Coming out of Jiantang, Gu Huayu said to Fang Shi, second aunt, let's go to shopkeeper Lu to pay for the seeds. Fang nodded and said, okay, shopkeeper Liu's shop is not far from here, let's go. Gu Huayu walked side by side with Fang, and said as they walked, second uncle, we have made a fortune. Let's go back and buy some vegetables, and let's celebrate as a family in the evening, okay. Fang turned her head to look at Gu Huayu and said with a smile, okay, follow Xiao's arrangements. Xiao, you have made so much money today, what are your plans next? The younger generation of the Gu family keeps all the money they earn from hunting in the mountains for themselves. Gu Huayu met Fang's gaze and blurted out without thinking at all, go back and give it to grandfather to make a decision. However, before giving it to grandfather, let's buy some delicious food and then some cloth for each member of the family. Make 2 sets of clothes, buy some pens, ink, paper and inkstones for my brothers, and buy some jewelry for my second sister. The girl's family should be dressed up. Hand it all over, Xiao, don't you want to keep it for yourself? Fang asked in surprise. Gu Huayu spread her hands, I'm at home all day long and I don't need any money, so what should I do with it? There are many places to use money at home, so leave it to my grandfather, who will arrange it. Fang asked tentatively, with so much money, Xiao is willing to give it all to his grandfather. Why are you reluctant to part with it? Besides, how much money is this? Second aunt, do you believe it or not, in the future, I will definitely earn a lot of money so that my family can live a good life. Gu Huayu raised a smile and took the opportunity to brainwash Fang. Fang only thought Gu Huayu was joking, how can money be so easy to earn? Is it good luck to pick up a century-old ginseng, and can you still pick up ginseng every day? Gu Huayu was not discouraged when she saw that Fang didn't believe it, and continued, second aunt, don't believe it, I have many ways to make money in my mind. Second aunt, Xiao Guqinglin hurried over to meet her. Fang and Gu Huayu were both shocked. They looked at Guqinglin who was sweating profusely and asked, Qinglin, why are you here? Third brother, why are you here? End of this chapter. The Rebirth of Space, the lucky girl from a farm family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 15. Chapter 15 Gu Chengxiao. Gu Qinglin panted and pointed at Jiantang, I'm here to invite Uncle Hu. Gu Huayu couldn't help but feel her heart sink when she looked at Gu Qinglin who was sweating profusely. What's wrong? Who's sick? Fang asked nervously. Eldest sister is sick and said she hasn't eaten for 2 days. Dad, Mom, second uncle and third uncle have gone to Shita village. First third uncle asked me to invite shopkeeper Hu to come over, Gu Qinglin explained. Is Cheng Jiao sick? Someone from the Han family came to report, Fang asked in shock. Gu Huayu's heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly remembered that in that life, not long after her mother's death, her eldest sister Gu Chengjiao died of illness. Gu Qinglin gasped and was about to answer, but Gu Huayu said first, third brother, hurry up and ask for Uncle Hu. If you have any questions, we'll ask him later. Yes, brother Lin, you go and ask for shopkeeper Hu first, Fang urged. Gu Qinglin nodded and walked quickly to Jiantang. Gu Huayu turned around and asked, second aunt, is Shita village far away? It's not too far. Going west from the town, Shita village is beside the official road. The road is easy to walk, it only takes half an hour to reach it, Fang said. It's on the official road, let's rent a car, it's faster, Gu Huayu suggested. Fang nodded in agreement, okay, you wait here for Chen Lin and the others, and I'll rent a car. When Fang came back from renting a car, he saw Gu Huayu standing alone and asked, what? Chen Lin and the others haven't come here yet. Gu Huayu weighed her feet and looked toward Jiantang, Uncle Hu may be busy and can't leave for a while. Let's wait. Fang stretched her neck to look and said to Gu Huayu, Xiao gets in the car, let's wait at the entrance of Jian Hall. They are coming. Gu Huayu saw Gu Qinglin carrying the medical box in front of him to clear the way, and shopkeeper Hu hurriedly followed behind. When the two of them arrived, shopkeeper Hu explained apologetically, I'm sorry, someone came to see a doctor just now, so I kept you waiting for a long time. Mrs. Fang leaned forward and said, thank you very much for taking a trip, shopkeeper Hu. Shopkeeper Hu, please get in the car. Gu Qinglin looked at Fang and Gu Huayu in confusion. Gu Huayu saw that Gu Qinglin was in a daze and reached out to him, third brother, get in the car quickly. Let's go there faster. Oh. Okay, Gu Qinglin came to his senses, jumped into the car, and sat next to the driver. After getting on the bus, the driver knew that several people were in a hurry, so he drove the bus through an alley with fewer people. Leave the town and ran all the way west. On the way, Gu Huayu asked, sister, has your life been unhappy at your husband's house these years? Fang sighed, shook his head and said, oh, Cheng Jiao is too sensible. She has been like this since she was a child. She always endures suffering and grievances by herself. In the years since she got married, in the first 2 years, she would go home to visit her during the New Year and holidays. In the past 2 years, she has only been home once a year. When asked how she was doing at her husband's house, she only said yes. Gu Huayu understood clearly that the eldest sister was kind-hearted and soft-tempered. She was afraid that she would be criticized by her husband's family. She was worried that her family would see that she was not doing well, so she tried not to go back to her parents' house. Gu Huayu vaguely remembered that her mother-in-law passed away and her eldest sister came back for the funeral. However, at that time, I was in a daze from crying and never noticed my eldest sister's physical condition. Thinking of this, Gu Huayu's heart was in suspense, and she prayed secretly in her heart, hoping that everything would be done in time. A group of people rushed to the Han family in Chita village. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the courtyard. Gu Qinglin jumped out first and then reached out to help Doctor Hu get out of the car. Fang got out of the car and Gu Huayu took out a tael of silver and handed it to the coachman, chartering the coach for a day and asking the coachman to wait here. The driver accepted the money and happily agreed. Gu Huayu entered the Han family's yard and saw the men of the Gu family standing in the yard with angry faces and sullen faces. Gu Qinjiao's husband, Han Xiong, hid behind his parents tremblingly, peeking at everyone fearfully. Han Xiong's mother, Mrs. Mao, rolled up her sleeves and glared at the Gu family fiercely, shouting, "What do you want to do? Who eats grains and doesn't get sick? Who does she blame for getting sick?" Gu Huayu glanced at the Han family and followed Gu Jinglin and shopkeeper Hu to Gu Jinjiao's house. "Xiao Xiao, if you have a lot of problems, how are you going to let my mother live?" As soon as they arrived at the door, Qin's mournful cries reached Gu Huayu's ears. "Auntie, Doctor Hu is here. Let Doctor Hu check the eldest sister's pulse first," Gu Jinglin consoled her. Mrs. Jean stood up and greeted shopkeeper Hu with tears in her eyes. Doctor Hu walked to the bedside and felt Gu Jinjiao's pulse. Gu Huayu looked at the unconscious Gu Chengqiao, and then at Doctor Hu, whose face was getting darker and darker. She stepped forward to take a closer look at Gu Jinjiao's face, and grabbed her other hand to feel her pulse. After a moment, Gu Huayu put down Gu Jinjiao's hand, stepped aside, and took advantage of everyone's unpreparedness to take a treasure pill from the space and hold it in her hand. Doctor Hu stood up after feeling his pulse. Mrs. Jean asked anxiously, "Doctor Hu, how is Cheng Qiao?" Doctor Hu sighed, shook his head and said, "Well, let's prepare for the funeral." After hearing what Doctor Hu said, Mrs. Jean felt like a thunderbolt from the blue. There was a buzz in her head and she suddenly lost consciousness. On Iong, Gu Jinglin hurriedly stepped forward to support his mother. Gu Huayu looked at Mrs. Jean, who was not fainting, and turned to ask Doctor Hu, "Uncle Hu, can you bring a silver needle?" Doctor Hu nodded, "I'll take it with me, Xiao." Gu Huayu said, "Then please lend me some, uncle." Doctor Hu looked at Gu Huayu in disbelief. "Xiao, what do you want the silver needle to do?" Gu Huayu said briefly, "Uncle Hu, my eldest sister looks very much like a case I have seen in a medical book. I want to try it, maybe it will be useful." "Doctor Hu." Gu Huayu urged, "Doctor Hu." Doctor Hu turned to look at Gu Jinglin. Gu Jinglin looked at his mother in his arms worriedly and said to Dr. Hu, "Give Xiao the silver needle." Doctor Hu turned around to get the silver needle. Gu Jinglin lowered his head to comfort his mother who woke up. Gu Huayu took advantage of Gu Jinglin to comfort Qin and stuffed the treasure pill in her hand into Gu Jinjiao's mouth. When Mrs. Jean heard that her daughter could still be saved, she looked at Gu Huayu as if she were a savior and urged, "Xiao, try it quickly and help Xiao Xiao." Gu Huayu looked at Mrs. Jean and comforted her with gentle words, "Don't worry, auntie, eldest sister will be fine." After saying that, Gu Huayu took the silver needle handed over by Doctor Hu and began to acupuncture Gu Chengqiao. Ms. Jean and Gu Jinglin watched in astonishment as Gu Huayu inserted the silver needle steadily into Gu Jinjiao's body. Doctor Hu also looked at Gu Huayu in shock. The difference is that the former is amazed that Gu Huayu understands medical skills, while the latter is amazed by Gu Huayu's skillful acupuncture techniques. After a while, the important acupuncture points on Gu Jinjiao's body were filled with needles. A quarter of an hour later, Gu Chengjiao woke up faintly. "I'm awake," Doctor Hu stepped forward to check Gu Jinjiao's pulse in surprise, and then said excitedly, "I'm back, my pulse is back." Gu Huayu removed the silver needles from Gu Jinjiao's body one by one and said to Doctor Hu, "Sister, she has liver qi stagnation, heart qi stagnation, long-term poor diet, malnutrition and phlegm heat that closes the pericardium, which is why she looks like she is dead. Next, the uncle will prescribe a prescription for the eldest sister to take good care of herself." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Rebirth of Space, The Lucky Girl from a Farm Family. Author, He Would Fire Every. Chapter 16. Chapter 16 Rhetoric. Doctor Hu was shocked by Gu Huayu's medical skills in bringing the dead back to life, and was impressed by her skillful acupuncture skills. After listening to Gu Huayu's words, he nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes, I will prescribe a prescription right now." Xiao, I want to may I ask who you studied under? Can you teach me the acupuncture technique you just performed? Qin and Gu Qinglin followed and looked at Gu Huayu. When Gu Huayu saw everyone looking at her, she smiled and bowed, and replied with the words she had prepared before, back to uncle, Xiao has never been a disciple, and the method of rescue just now was read from a medical book. Uncle also knows that my mother-in-law has been taking medicine all year round, so Xiao has read more medical books, so she knows a little bit about it. If the uncle wants to understand this acupuncture method, Hui Xiao will list the method in detail and give it to Uncle Hu. After hearing Gu Huayu's explanation, Gu Qinglin's doubts were eliminated. In the Gu family, although Gu Huayu is the youngest sister, she is the most well-read and the most knowledgeable. Gu Huayu loves to read, which is not unusual in the Gu family or even in Shangtai village. At this moment, Gu Huayu was extremely grateful to her father for teaching her how to read. He was afraid that she would be bored, so he collected various books for her to pass the time. Doctor Hu stroked his goatee and said with emotion, "It's true that a long-term illness makes a good doctor. Xiao's medical skills are amazing." Gu Huayu returned the favor humbly, "Uncle Hu, thank you for the award, it's just a coincidence." When Mrs. Jean saw her daughter waking up, she cried with joy. She stepped forward and held Gu Qingjiao's hand, crying and scolding her. Gu Qinglin leaned towards Gu Huayu and said, "Xiao, thank you. We are a family, and the third brother is out of sight like this." Gu Huayu said coquettishly to Gu Qinglin, "I have paid the driver outside the door. The third brother will go with Uncle Hu and bring back the medicine that the elder sister needs." With that said, Gu Huayu took out 5 taels of silver and gave it to shopkeeper Hu. "Thank you very much, Uncle Hu. This is the money for the diagnosis and medicine." When Dr. Hu saw Gu Huayu taking out the money, he took a few steps back and refused to accept the money. "Xiao, you treated Xiaojiao's disease, how can I accept the money? On the contrary, Xiao taught me the acupuncture technique to save the disease. I should give you a gift as a teacher." Gu Huayu smiled and said, "I don't deserve the teaching ceremony. I just got the method by chance. I would like to thank Uncle Hu for now. Let the third brother go with him. We will discuss it in detail another day." Dr. Hu was also a smart person, so he said goodbye and left the house with Gu Qinglin. Gu Huayu saw Dr. Hu off and turned around to see Mrs. Jean and Gu Chengjiao holding their heads and crying. She stepped forward to help Mrs. Jean sit on the square stool and sat sideways on the edge of the bed. Ms. Jean held Gu Chengjiao's thin hand and said sadly, "You silly girl, if I hadn't gotten the letter from your second aunt today, would I have been waiting to collect your body?" Han Xiong's second aunt Wang Liang and Wang Xiui of Gu Jinnan's family are cousins and nephews of the same clan. Wang Liang happened to return to her parents' home yesterday, and met Wang Xiui when she returned to Shita village this morning. Wang Xiui asked about Gu Chengjiao, and Wang Liang said that Gu Chengjiao was seriously ill. After hearing this, Wang Xiui was so frightened that she had no idea. When she passed by the house, she pulled Wang Liang into her house to have tea. After careful questioning, the Gu family found out about Gu Jinjiao's situation in the Han family. "Are you stupid? You are so angry that you don't know how to go back to your parents' home? Are you the one who has no one in your parents' home?" Ms. Jean growled at Gu Chengjiao, hating her. Gu Huayu vaguely remembered that in that life, less than a month after the death of her eldest sister, Han Xiong married a woman from the same village. It was said that the woman was already pregnant when she entered the house. After Mrs. Jean found out, she was upset at home for a long time. Calculating the time, Han Xiong and that woman may have already had a relationship. End of this chapter. The Rebirth of Space, the lucky girl from a farm family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 17. Chapter 17 Bullying goes too far. Gu Huayu thought that she had to pull Gu Chengjiao out of the fire bed. "Uncle, the eldest sister is weak and needs to rest." We can't leave the eldest sister here. We have to take the eldest sister back. You go and help the eldest sister clean up and pay tribute. Gu Huayu looked at Gu Chengqiao, who was so weak that her face was stained with tears, and turned to Mrs. Jean. No, there's no need to clean up my mother's side, I won't go back. Gu Chengqiao stopped her. Mrs. Jean had already half stood up. After listening to Gu Chengqiao's words, she sat back down and asked angrily, "You won't go back? Are you going to stay and wait to die? How sick are you? They have done nothing for you. Ask a doctor for help? Who cares about you? Why did I give birth to you, a loser?" Mrs. Jean was angry and annoyed, and wished she could give her daughter 2 slaps. Seeing that Anyang was angry, Gu Chengqiao hurriedly explained, "Anyang is not angry. My daughter doesn't want to go back because it will embarrass her mother's family and bring shame to her family if she goes back like this. My daughter is unfilial and makes Anyang worry about her daughter." After hearing what her daughter said, Ms. Jean's anger dissipated a lot, but she felt even more heartbroken, with tears streaming down her face. Gu Huayu looked at the sensible Gu Chengqiao, looked up at the roof sadly, held back the tears in her eyes, took a deep breath, and asked, "Sister, is your face more important than your life? Huh? If you are good at home, have you ever thought about how sad people will be and how sad my aunt will be?" Gu Chengqiao did not dare to look directly at Qin and Gu Huayu. She looked away and let tears flow down the corners of her eyes. Seeing Gu Chengqiao crying silently, Gu Huayu sighed slightly, stretched out her hand to hold Gu Chengqiao's hand, and said warmly, "Sister, you are weak, be obedient, come back with us first, and take good care of yourself, okay?" Gu Chengqiao remained silent and shed tears. Qin said angrily, "Cry, cry, cry, you only know how to cry, is crying useful? You are just talking, what do you think?" Gu Huayu looked at the angry Qin family, then at the silent Gu Chengqiao, and thought to herself that she would have to take strong medicine. Gu Huayu patted Qin's hand and said comfortingly, "Auntie, don't be angry, the eldest sister has her own thoughts." After saying that, Gu Huayu looked at Gu Chengqiao and asked softly, "Sister, does my brother-in-law want to take a concubine?" Qin turned to look at Gu Huayu and asked in shock, "Xiao, are you telling the truth?" Gu Huayu glanced at Mrs. Jean without answering, then looked at Gu Chengqiao, "Sister, tell me, right?" Mrs. Jean turned to look at Gu Chengqiao and asked in a deep voice, "Xiao, tell me, is what Xiao said true?" Gu Chengqiao nodded with tears in her eyes. Mrs. Jean stood up from the square stool with a bang, "Damn it, Han Xiang is really bullying me. How did he agree to this in the first place? I'm going to argue with him," Mrs. Jean said as she walked out. Gu Chengqiao wanted to get up to stop her, but Gu Huayu stretched out her hand to hold her down. "The eldest sister is still lying down, let the eldest uncle go and argue with them. The eldest uncle, the second uncle, father and brother are all outside, the eldest uncle can't suffer the loss." Gu Chengqiao looked at Mrs. Jean's angry back, wiped her tears with her sleeves, and choked up, "It's all because of my unfilial piety that I let my family worry about me." Gu Huayu said comfortingly, "Sister, don't say that, a family should care about each other. Sister, tell me, what's going on with my brother-in-law taking a concubine?" Speaking of Han Xiang's concubine, Gu Chengqiao said aggrievedly, "If he only took concubines, I would admit it. He actually asked me to be a concubine and let that woman be his wife on the grounds that I couldn't bear children. I want to be a concubine, how can I hold my head high and be a good person? My mother-in-law's face has been completely humiliated." End of this chapter. The Rebirth of Space, the lucky girl from a farm family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 18. Chapter 18 Persuasion. Gu Chengqiao raised her hand to wipe her tears, and continued crying, "Xiao, in the past few years since I was married, I have managed this family by myself, inside and out. I have no credit but also hard work. How could he treat me like this? Gu Cheng burst into tears and confided to Gu Huayu his unwillingness, frustration, and anger, which made Gu Huayu feel heartbroken. Gu Huayu gritted her teeth and took 2 deep breaths before suppressing the anger in her heart. He comforted her softly, "Sister, please make peace with me. What is a man like this doing?" Heli, Gu Chengjiao raised her head and looked at Gu Huayu in astonishment. She thought about death, but she never thought about separation. Gu Huayu nodded firmly, "Well, divorce, or divorce. Since Han Xiong doesn't cherish the eldest sister will divorce him." Gu Chengjiao was stunned for a while, then shook her head dully, "We can't make peace." Gu Huayu held Gu Chengjiao's hand and looked directly at him, "Why can't we just reconcile? What else can eldest sister have to remember for such a man?" Gu Chengjiao shook his head and said, "Xiao, you are still young and don't understand this. Why, the Han family doesn't treat you as a human being, so why don't you get along?" Seeing that Gu Huayu was thinking about her wholeheartedly, Gu Chengjiao felt much warmer in her heart. She sighed slightly and said, "Xiao, you are still young and don't understand how difficult it is for women in the world." Gu Huayu knew that persuasion was not easy, but thinking about the consequences of Gu Chengjiao staying in the Han family and dying, she had to persuade her no matter how difficult it was. "Sister, please don't think of me as a child. I am 10 years old and understand a lot of things." Gu Chengjiao held Gu Huayu's hand, nodded and said, "Sister, I know that Xiao is a young adult." In Gu Chengjiao's eyes, Gu Huayu is just a child. Gu Huayu was a little bit dumbfounded when she saw Gu Chengjiao coaxing her like a child, "Sister, Han Xiong is not a good man. Sister, you should make peace with him." "But, we are divorced, what should I do? What should I do?" "Go home," Gu Huayu blurted out. Gu Chengjiao smiled bitterly and said slowly, "Xiao, a woman who is divorced by her husband's family will be despised by others, and her spittle can drown people. Sister, you are Heli. It is you who divorces your husband, not your husband's family who divorces you," Gu Huashui defended. "They're both Xiu, aren't they different?" Gu Chengjiao asked. Gu Huayu said seriously, "Of course it's different, our confidence is different. Also, eldest sister, don't care about what others say, your mouth is on others, let them say whatever they like. Let's live our own lives well." Gu Chengjiao sighed, "It's not that simple." Gu Huayu knew that she could not convince Gu Chengjiao for the time being, so she said no more, "Eldest sister is weak, so close your eyes and rest. As for other things, my uncle and auntie are here, so I don't have to think too much about it." Gu Chengjiao felt weak all over and her mind was groggy. She closed her eyes obediently. Gu Huayu turned around and saw Fang standing behind her, "Second uncle." Mrs. Fang looked at Gu Chengjiao who had closed her eyes and sighed softly, "You don't have to be sad. Chengjiao is right. Life is difficult for women in this world, so how can they just say goodbye? Gossips are like knives, killing people invisible." Gu Huayu smiled dryly and said, "Second uncle, Xiao disagrees with this. Life is actually very simple, but we think about it too much. As for gossip, people in the world are all different. If you are polite to others, there will naturally be those who say rude and hurtful words. Whether we live in harmony or divorce, we can live our own lives and live for ourselves. We really don't need to care about what others think." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Rebirth of Space, the lucky girl from a farm family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 19. Chapter 19, Adding Fuel to the Fire. Gu Chengjiao sighed, opened his eyes and said, "Xiao Yu, what you said makes sense, I can ignore what others say. But, where is the family? Later, when my brother and the others got married, how embarrassed would it be for father and mother when my sister-in-law gossiped? Xiao, you are still young and you don't understand these principles. Furthermore, if I divorce and my reputation is ruined, what will happen to Chenjuan's marriage to you in the future? Gu Chengjiao paused for a moment and said helplessly, Xiao, it's really hard to be a woman. A married daughter throws away the water. Once you get married, you will be a guest when you return to your parents' home. My husband's family is good. I treat you as one of my own, and you still have a family. If your husband's family doesn't treat you as a human being, you won't even have a family. Gu Chengjiao said quietly without knowing where her eyes were falling. Gu Chengjiao's words were heartbreaking, and Gu Huayu felt uncomfortable hearing them, and said with relief, what the eldest sister said may be reasonable, but it is indeed heartbreaking. When the eldest sister is at home, she is filial to her elders. When did the elders in the family treat you as a guest? What if the younger brothers and sisters still have the eldest sister in their hearts? Treat your eldest sister as a guest? If the eldest sister is wronged outside, everyone in the family will be heartbroken and sad. The eldest sister should not abandon herself. The eldest sister is married, so she treats herself as a guest. How uncomfortable was it for the elders in the family to hear this? Is the eldest sister trying to kill the eldest uncle? Gu Chengjiao defended, Xiao, that's not what I meant. I know that the elders in my family pity me. However, my brothers in the family will marry in the future. Gu Chengjiao's voice lowered. Gu Huayu understands Gu Chengjiao's concerns. If she goes back with Li, she will inevitably receive cynicism from the Wang family. Gu Huayu simply said it in front of Mrs. Fang, I understand what the eldest sister is worried about. The eldest sister is worried that the sisters-in-law at home will gossip about it. Right? Even if it happens one day, it's not a big deal. The eldest sister can set up a female household, rent 2 acres of land, and live a good life. How could such a hard-working sister starve to death? Besides, eldest sister, you still have me, and I won't leave her alone. Gu Chengjiao was moved when she heard about the establishment of a female household. She stood up with her hands on her hands and asked, Xiao, is it really possible? Can a female household be established? Seeing Gu Chengjiao's heart move, Gu Huayu nodded firmly and said, of course it's true. There is a book about the laws of daxing on my father's bookshelf. I have read that in our daxing, divorced and widowed women can have children. Households, and female households only have to collect half of the grain. A glimmer of hope flashed in Gu Chengjiao's eyes, and she asked anxiously, Xiao, do you think Han Xiang will agree to the divorce? As long as the eldest sister is willing to reconcile, everything else will be fine. Xiao, go home with my mother. Damn, you are really bullying me. The girl I hold dear to my heart is my concubine, my mother's concubine. Before Gu Huayu could finish her words, Mrs. Jean hit her like a gust of wind. Came in and ordered. Gu Huayu and Gu Chengjiao looked at each other and hurriedly responded, Sister, listen to the eldest uncle, let's go home. First aunt, second aunt, you pack eldest sister's things, and I'll go see if the third brother is back. Mrs. Jean was furious and angrily packed Gu Chengjiao's luggage. Gu Huayu came out of Gu Chengjiao's house and saw Mao with her arms akimbo and scolding Gu Chengjiao's house. A person who can't have children still wants to dominate the position of the head wife? If you don't give up on her, it's because the Han family is being polite. I tell you, even if this matter goes to court, we won't be held responsible. Gu Huayu looked at the Gu family man who was standing in the yard, his face turned blue with anger, and sighed secretly in her heart. Using the courtesy of a gentleman to reason with the shrew would only make her angry to death. She has to add fuel to the fire. End of this chapter. The Rebirth of Space, the lucky girl from a farm family. Author, he would fire every. Chapter 20. Chapter 20, Protecting One's Shortcomings. Gu Huaya glanced at Mrs. Mao and raised her voice to Gu Difang, "Uncle, in this case, let the eldest sister and Han Xiang reconcile. There is no reason for us, the daughter of the Gu family, to be bullied. Gu Changjiao is a hard-working and uncomplaining cow in the Han family. No, Gu Changjiao is worse than a cow, and cows still have grass to eat. Gu Changjiao had to take care of the family's food and drink. How could Mrs. Mao be willing to let Gu Changjiao leave the Han family?" After hearing what Gu Huayu said, Mrs. Mao cursed, "You little with no tutor, how can you interrupt when adults are talking?" Before Mao could finish cursing, Gu Huayu had already rushed towards Mao, knocked her to the ground, sat on Mao's body, slapped Mao on the face one after another, and muttered, "I let you swear, I let you bully my eldest sister, I will beat you to death." Everything happened so unexpectedly that everyone present was stunned. Han Xiang was standing behind Mao. Mao fell backward and bumped into him. Han Xiang saw his mother being beaten, raised his leg and kicked Gu Huayu, and cursed, "Xiao Lang Ho, I will kick you to death." Gu Huayu fell backwards following Han Xiang's feet, fell backwards from Mao's body, and rolled twice on the ground, as if she had been kicked severely by Han Xiang. He grinned and screamed in pain, "Oh! Mother, it hurts." Gu Huayu's screams awakened the men of the Gu family present. Gu Chengdong and Gu Jinnan rushed to Han Xiang together, pushed him to the ground and punched and kicked him for a while. Gu Dichang was worried and rushed to Gu Huayu, picked her up, and asked with concern, "Xiao, are you hurt?" Gu Huayu grinned and said in pain, "Dad, it hurts," but her eyes fell on Han Xiang and secretly said, "Beat you to death, you idiot." Han Xiang's father, Han Qingming, saw his wife and son being beaten and hurriedly stepped forward to start a fight. He was beaten by Gu Chengdong and Gu Jinnan together. Mao was so frightened that she cried loudly and begged Gu Difang and Gu Jinnan to stop. Gu Huayu touched her left shoulder that was kicked by Han Xiang and said aggrievedly, "Dad, my arm hurts so much." Seeing his daughter's painful expression, Gu Dichang said heartbrokenly, "Let Dad take a look." Gu Huayu shook her head and stood up straight. Seeing that Han Xiang was beaten into a ball and had no strength to fight back, she said, "No, Xiao can bear it. Tell the eldest and second brothers to stop fighting." Gu Dichang and Gu Dihe stepped forward to stop them and pulled Gu Jinnan and Gu Chengdong up. The three members of the Han family were lying on the ground with bruises and swollen faces, crying and groaning. Mr. Mao sat on the ground, kicking his feet wildly on the ground and said, "It's unreasonable, the Gu family is beating people. Xiang, my son, let's go and invite Li Zheng over and let Li Zheng come and comment. To bring justice to us, where does the Gu family come from to beat people up in our house?" Gu Huayu heard Mao scolding, raised her leg and kicked Mao again. "You old man with a short memory, you still scold me? Can you scold me?" Gu Huayu struck too quickly, and Mao fell down again in full view of the public. Gu Jinnan looked at Mao on the ground, turned to ask Gu Chengdong, "When did Xiao's skills become so agile?" Gu Chengdong replied, "Xiao is very angry today." Gu Jinnan. Gu Huayu used a lot of force with her kick, and Mao felt as if her chest had been run over by a boulder. The pain was so painful that she couldn't breathe. Gu Chengdong had a bit of appreciation in his eyes, but he didn't expect that the usually soft and weak girl would be quick and ruthless in her attacks, and her temperament would protect her shortcomings and be strong. End of this chapter.